to Middle Earth readings. Today it is the 12th of April, Monday the 12th of April. My name is Maggie Cunningham. I'm the founder of MaggiandRose.com, which is a site set up to deliver trainings, support, resources for healers, seers, magicians and mystics following the path of the Northern European tradition. So I'm hoping that some people will join me today. I managed to mess up. I batched setting up lots of these all at once. I managed to put, we were starting at 12:30, and obviously we don't start at 12:30, we started at 11. So if you are here, please do say hello. If not, and you're expecting me to show up and rock up at 12:30, I apologise. Do share the runes that are coming up for you this week in the comments box, and I will look to answer them through the course of the day. So what have we got ahead? So this is a really, I'm really liking the look of the week ahead, and there's quite a lot to talk about. So bear with me as I try and get through it for us. So we've got two planetary movements today. So Suna's chariot has entered Manas, the rune of humanity, the divine spark within the human, and Odin's, and the new moon is in Ewaz, the rune of the steed, the rune of partnership. And we've had quite a powerful sort of Ewaz few weeks. So Suna's chariot was in Ewaz. We've had Odin's chariot in Ewaz. We've had Frigg's chariot in Ewaz. So it's still an energy that's available to us. And Mani, the moon, is now bringing that renewed, thinking about what's moving forward. He's at his most adventurous self, his sort of youngest, boldest, most risk-taking self when he is at his new phase. So it's a great time to be, envisioning, starting out new stuff, and planning for the month to come. And we have that Ewaz energy that's available to us, and that's going to be quite important. Because we've got those two movements, and then on the 16th we've got Odin's chariot moves into Manas as well. So the Manas power is building. So we've already got Frigg's chariot in Manas, and we've got Suna's chariot in Manas, and we're going to have Odin's chariot in Manas. So it's real focus on helping us to step into our power, to step into our sovereign identity is coming through, and to weave the different parts of our own knowingness of ourselves. So you can think about that within Germanic soul law. There are lots of different aspects of the self, and they'll sort of work together through the mode, which we get the modern English word mood from mode. But mode means like the full soul complex. But if you're thinking about it in sort of modern English terms, you could think about it as the way in which your emotions and your thoughts and your feelings, your sensing, the way in which you integrate all of those things within this self, within this knowing being, and how do we integrate them? And when we're standing in our Manas power, when we've sort of mastered that power of Manas for ourselves, we're able to look at all of these different bits of communication that's coming, all this feedback that we're getting. I'm like, what do my instincts say? What do my intuitions say? What are my thoughts saying right now? What does my memory tell me about the world, and what the world is like, and what's happening now is likely to mean? All of these things come together. But when we're in Manas, we're able to judge between them and make powerful decisions for ourselves. So this is, it's a really empowering time. And the other thing that's really present to me at the moment, and comes in as well from both from these runes and through the theme that we've been working on in the hearth space, but it feels particularly relevant, is the idea of the familiar and the unfamiliar. And if you imagine a sovereign, someone who's in their sovereign power, sovereign is able to negotiate both the familiar and the unfamiliar. In this, they obviously the familiar, they're looking to govern and lead, and in the unfamiliar, they're looking to lead people forward into the unfamiliar. So I just want you to think at the moment about your relationship at this point with what's familiar and what's unfamiliar to you, and to think about the way in which the familiar can be comforting. It can feel safe. We can feel secure within the familiar, But it doesn't always have to be that way. It can be a negative experience. It can feel boring, or it can feel disempowering. We can be in a familiar, the sense of being disempowered is familiar to me. The sense of not having control is familiar to me. The sense of being in control, of having power, is unfamiliar to me. And often that shell of the familiar, while it makes us feel safe, even if it's negative, and that's quite an important theme that's coming through for me at the moment, is sort of saying, we hold on to the familiar because it's familiar, because it is known to us, because all of the different parts of our soul know how to negotiate this space, and so we keep going to it. Doesn't always mean that it's good or bad. So the reason that, well, there are many reasons why I was thinking about this, but obviously one of the reasons is I'm thinking about the easing of lockdown, the fact that we're here in the UK, we're moving into an easing of lockdown. There's another step coming forward, and for some of us that will feel really exciting and just like, I'm going to go out there, it's going to be great, it's going to be brilliant. And for others of us, we might be thinking, no, I'm staying in my house, I'm not going out there, I don't feel safe, so it's different for each of us, and we are being called to navigate into the unfamiliar. Some of us might be thinking, oh, well, this is an old familiar, I'm just going back to what it was like before. But I think for the majority of us, we are thinking, actually, it's going to be slightly different. Just in a very practical way, and I think I might have alluded to this before, we're going to have to accept that our version of familiar is going to be different to other people's. So just on the basis of things like, there will be people who continue to wear masks out and about for a long time to come. It might for them become like the new normal, which they're comfortable with and they're happy with, and think, why didn't I do this before? Whereas for other people, they're going to be like, no, I don't want to do that. And I feel as if part of the new familiar, which we're going to need to be building for each other, is to accept that there are differences in choices that people are going to be making in order to express themselves in their own sovereign identity. So that was just a small example, but things that are coming up for me are, what's it going to be like to, I've commuted for years and years and years, and obviously I haven't done it this year, and I've actually made changes to my life, which mean that's going to be much less present in my life moving forward, and that feels great. For other people, they'll be going, actually, I'm going back to the commute. Does that feel good or does it feel bad? There's lots of feedback that's going to be coming through. It could be just as much as, a lot of us haven't got the exercise that we wanted to. What do you want that to feel like? What are the things that you want to bring forward? What are the things that you want to say, no, I don't like that anymore, it's horrible. And there's a lot for us to negotiate in this point, and I feel that's why manas and ewas are particularly important to us at this time. So I wanted to bring forward for you. Hi Suzanne, lovely to see you. It's nice to get a comment in the box. I know that somebody is there, so please do share any runes that are coming up for you at the moment, and I can look at how they might integrate with our manas, ewas energy that we're looking at for this week. So what I wanted to do was to introduce you to a concept in the northern tradition of innangard and utangard. We've been discussing this a little bit in the half space in the context of water magics, but I felt, actually this is really relevant for manas and ewas at this point. So innangard, it literally means inner enclosure, and utangard means outer enclosure. So for those of you who are familiar with the northern tradition, you might know that we have, for example, Asgard, which is the enclosure of the gods, where the Aesir live, and we have Midgard, the middle enclosure, or Middle Earth, or where we live, where humans live, and mid literally means like middle, the middle realm. So why they put let's put the humans and the Earth sort of in the middle between everything else. I don't know whether they're supposed to be protecting or what's going on there, but we're in the middle. For better or for worse, we are there. Now, from the Aesir's perspective, they are in innangard. Innangard is Asgard, it's their realm. And the realm that is most traditionally called Utangard is Jotunheim, the realm of the giants. Now, the giants are sort of wild, chaotic, powerful, beings, and they're often seen as being the enemies of the gods, even though the gods and the giants stem from a single heritage, they have a single lineage. They become enemies in many ways. But it's not as black and white as that, and I think this is very important, that the idea of like good and evil, right and wrong, is not as relevant in the northern tradition as it is in some of the later traditions. You know, for example, there's Christianity that's come and sort of overlaid itself over much of Northern Europe. So we shouldn't be looking at this and going, okay, so innangard is good and utangard is bad. What we can say is that innangard normally represents order, harmony, safety, that which is known, and utangard represents chaos, wildness, raw power, that which is unknown. But my suggestion would be to you that to the Aesir, innangard is Asgard and Jotunheim is Utangard. But that's not going to be the way the giants look at it. They're probably looking at it the other way around. You know? And there is actually a lot of traversing those boundaries. So the gods often go to Jotunheim for wisdom, you know, for knowledge and wisdom. They bring it back. You know, Odin brings back the mead of inspiration from the giants, and that's very important. Jotunheim isn't the only realm that might be considered to be Utangard either. So again, we talked with the Ewaz during last week. I was talking about Odin and the way that he rides on a drazzle for his initiatory experience. He sort of hangs on the world tree. It becomes his steed, bringing in the Ewaz rune. And he is literally hanging between maybe like this structured realm of, the tree, the world tree, and the well of weird beneath, which is water. And water is often considered to be the barrier between Utangard and innangard. So when he discovers the runes, and he discovers them with this mighty roar after sort of hanging over the world tree in this liminal space for 9 days and 9 nights, and he draws them in and he brings them out of Utangard into innangard, and they become the source of wisdom and knowledge, and we are using them right now. So Utangard is a place of great power and knowledge, and we can see that in human traditions as well. So innangard and utangard was also used to distinguish between the known tribe or clan, that a child is born into, blessed by water, by the way, to accept them into the innangard space where they are safe, where they're protected, where they're loved, where they are known, and that's their familiar space. But if a person was to traverse the rules, and I mean a really bad, not just like stealing a pot or something, like a big thing, they traverse the rules of the innangard space, then the worst punishment, possibly even worse than death, would have been to be branded as an utangard, and literally that was often like branding on the skin, and you would be sent out into the forests, and you'd have to fend for yourself, and no other tribe would have to take you in because you'd have this brand. You'd be branded as an utangarder. So basically, anyone could, with impunity, kill you, take your staff, do anything like that because you were outside the rules of the innangard space. So this is really important in terms of thinking about a mind, a view, a world view. But again, it's not as simple as saying innangard is safe and great and brilliant and utangard is horrible and no, we don't want to be there. Because for initiatory experiences often involved going out into utangard alone and communing with the land. Maybe the aurochs hunt, for example, associated with the Uru's rune. Finding wisdom, finding your own power would then mean that you could come back and you would bring those valuable skills and a declaration of your own power back to your tribe, and you'd be welcomed back in. So very similar to Odin going out, or Loki going out, even though Loki's a giant. I'm just going to confuse you there. Let's ignore that bit. Going out and finding wisdom and bringing it back. So we can't just say, well, we just won't go to Utangard. That won't work. We have to be able to deal with the familiar and the unfamiliar. And the same is true of us in the present day. We might not have the same form of initiatory experience. We might not be going out into the wild. Some of us do. It's good fun. But we are continually negotiating the boundaries of the familiar and the unfamiliar, and recognizing that there is value to be drawn from moving into the unfamiliar. So when I think about Ewaz and Manas, I'm thinking about like the steed, the partnership, the partnership of the soul. So all of the different aspects of your soul your feelings, your instincts, your body, your mind, your emotions, the way in which they're bringing you information all of the time about what your world is like, about who you are, about how you're going to respond in the moment. And the manners part is taking that sovereign judgment piece. And, it might well be that for some of us, our instinctive selves are saying, actually, I want to go out into the utangard space. And just for some of us, that might feel like I want to go out and I want to be out with loads of people and I'm going to hug them and it's going to be brilliant and it's going to be fabulous. Woohoo! For some of us, our instincts are, I'm going to stay in and be a hermit forever. And what the sovereign self is doing is looking at that spectrum and saying, okay, I might have different parts of me that want to do different things. Which one am I going to choose? Which one is right for me? How am I going to stand in my power? As that's the judgment that I'm taking in this moment. And many of us, we have different relationships with different places or things. We would never have got anywhere if the Viking ancestors weren't sort of saying, oh, yeah, let's get on a ship and go out into the total unknown, water, over water, into the total unknown to find something exciting. In the olden days, that's a technical term, isn't it? But those maps where it used to say any bit that was uncharted, it would just say there'd be dragons here. Some of us would be like, well, I'm not going there then. It's ridiculous. Of course I'm not. For other people, they'd be like, oh, there are dragons there. That's where I'm going. So we have different strands of the soul calling us to do different things, and we have to then take a judgment and decide which one we're going to follow. And for me, that's the Ewa self. It's that I want to move forward. And whatever it is, I'm going to make the decision. It's going to be great. And the Mana self is saying, no, okay, hold on. Odin is no longer hanging on the tree. He's sitting on the throne. Now, in Manas, you're sitting on your throne, and you're looking at, what do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? So through this time, my invitation to you is really to think about what is your Ewa self saying to you. How are you feeling in this moment? What are your instincts calling you to? And you can do, journaling, you can do drumming journeys, you can do meditations, you can do dance, you can do whatever you need to do to get into, what works for you to get into your Ewas state, which is almost, the wild part of the self. This chaotic barrage of information that's coming through. And it's the Mana self, the self that's seated on your throne, who then says, how can I bring order to this? How can I decide what's right? That this instinct is telling me, similar to me, I was like, I don't want to do the commute anymore. I don't. I'm going to change my job and my role and everything in my life to make that a part of my new reality. Whereas another person might have said, that's fine, I'm just going to look at, maybe I'm going to reduce my number of days commuting, or I'm going to listen to a brilliant podcast on my commute, I'm going to make it work for me. It's small things like that, but they're important for us in terms of standing in our power. And as I said, then it's the Mana self that filters and sorts and brings that sort of utangard experience of the self into the ordered experience now of the decisions that you're going to take. And that ordering self is the self that we need in order to traverse out into the unfamiliar. So let's have a little look at runes that we've got set up for people at the moment. So Felicity says, I've just been thinking about all of this. Oh, interesting. Felicity's in a half space, so that would be why. North is Ewas and Yera are your runes, Felicity. So North is, as we know, that the need, that for me would be listening to the instincts, the instinctive self. What is your instinctive self saying? What's the emotional self saying? And really getting in touch with that, which can be quite challenging to do if we are already holding a lot of emotions inside us or a lot of instinctive feeling. We can only process so much at any one time. So if you are struggling with that, to sort of go, oh, how do I actually feel? I don't even know what I feel anymore. There's so much going on. Doing work to process those emotions, to, as I've said, to journal, to dance, to sing, to be in movement. We process emotions through movement of the body. We can't do it with our mind. We can't just do it by thinking about it. Oh, well, I'm feeling really sad right now, so I've decided I'm going to stop. It doesn't work. We have to, for sadness, you have to cry. You have to let it out. And I feel as if that's incredibly important for us at the moment, because we are going to be overwhelmed by new sensations and new feelings as we emerge at this point. And we need to process those and honor and acknowledge the Ewaz self in order for the Manas self to therefore step forward. So you've got your Ewaz self, which is why I went into that a little bit. And you have the Yara rune as well. And for me, I'm thinking about that. Yes, it can be the slow turning of the wheel of the winter and the summer coming together. But I'm almost seeing this as being a conversation between two parts of the self as well. The wild, instinctive, knowing self, and the deciding, determining, ordering, doing self, and the fact that they must work in partnership, and we need to make space for both of them in our lives is what's coming through for me with that. Hi Cara, lovely to see you too. So that's all of the runes that I can see that have come up for people through the time. If there are any more in the last few minutes, do let me know. So just as a recap, we've got the new moon and Suna's chariot today. So Manas and Ewaz already here in partnership for us. My suggestion would be that maybe going into the Ewaz self at this point is the most helpful over the coming days. If there's stuff coming up, and it could be, it might be excitement, it might be trepidation, it might be overwhelm, it might be, I'm not ready, with what do I need to do in order to get myself ready? What do I need to do in order to sort of practically feel safe in my life? Whatever it is, now is a real time to get in touch with that deep knowing self. And then Manas is there almost as if you trust that your sovereign self is paying attention. I'm paying attention. And then when the 16th comes, in a few days' time, on the 16th, then that sovereign self is going to come forward more strongly as well, and will be available to you also. So that's the point, to be saying, okay, these are the decisions that I want to make. This is the way that I want it to be. I'm comfortable with my uncomfortable emotions, for example. I've looked at them, I'm okay with them, I know what they are. So even though I'm feeling a bit of fear around X or Y, I know that it's fear, and I know that I can move through fear. Naming things often helps us to feel like, okay, it's uncomfortable, but I've done it before and I can do it again. Is where we can come to with that. So I think, unless we have any more runes, let me have a look. Jean-Marie says, I had Manas reversed this morning. Oh, interesting, Jean-Marie. So given where we are with Manas, that's quite important, I would say, for you. And I'm really seeing Odin. I'm seeing the figure of Odin suspended on the world tree in many ways. And yeah, there's almost a need to turn that. There's almost a need to turn that rune in some way and say, okay, where am I looking for? I might be looking for a sign from the universe, something to tell me, like this is the way forward, or this is what I need to do. And to me, it's maybe suggesting that those signs have already come, that they're already there. And what the Manas rune is encouraging you to do is to accept them and say, yes, I already have that knowing. So now is the time to trust them, rather than sort of standing and waiting and saying, give me a sign or tell me what's right. I think the Manas rune is saying to you, you do already know. So it's about trusting that and trusting your own sovereign power. So yeah, okay, so there we are with the runes. And I wanted to mention just at the end of this piece that I know some of you who are on the call are already on the Awakening program. You're in the cohort for 2020, and I also happen to know that at least one of you has signed up already for the next program for our 2021-2022 Awakening program. So it is now available for pre-booking. I've got a little early bird offer for those of you who think, yes, I know, I want to do this. Oh, you should, it's so much fun. So you can go, and I'm taking deposits at the moment for early bird bookings. So the Awakening program, for those of you who don't know, is a program. It takes a full year, and it was for me. I wanted to create as much as possible an initiatory experience into the runes of the Elder Futhark. So we use the wheel of the year, and we work through power songs, through story sessions, through embodiment, sort of feeling meditations, as well as through all the traditional rune poems for all 24 of the runes, so that you get to know every single one of them in depth through the course of the year. And you have alongside that, interspersed in between each rune, a module about rune practice. So, there are modules on seership, there are modules on healing, there are modules on mysticism, working with your voice, working with spell work. I've tried to create what I would have loved to have had, when I was like, I really want to go into my rune practice right now. So Awakening is now open for pre-booking. I'll pop the link into the chat box for you, or you can just go to the website for those of you who would like to join. Felicity says, it's an amazing course. Thank you, Felicity. It's an amazing cohort of people that I have been working with. So let's just end with, Susan says she drew Perthrow. Love a bit of Perthrow. So a reminder there for me that Perthrow is a really strong rune at present time. It started its strength in January 2020, and it's a change bringer. It's bringing change, intuition, cleansing, rebirthing. Bringing in the new. It's very much about flowing with the tides. The tides of time and space, opening yourself to change, and being part of the change that I feel is really coming through this time, and will be in the Perthrow paradigm for another 8 years. It's a big one. It's the Hela's Chariot, which is where Perthrow is at the moment, cycles about once every 9 years. So Perthrow, Hela's Chariot is in Perthrow at the moment. So it's a really powerful energy, Susan. So get on board the Perthrow train is all that I can say to you. Open yourself to your intuition and to your instincts, and great things will come to pass. So have a wonderful, empowered week, following your wild self, bringing the gifts of your wild self to the sovereign self who will know what to do with them. And I will see you all next week, if not before.